Afternoon. A little introduction to myself. My name is Gregory Cloud. I go by Greg. I have 23 years of experience in law enforcement. I retired from right here at the Coors County Police Department as a. I made it to the rank of sergeant. Retired after 23 years. I've worked patrol. I was a detective. I worked in the criminal investigations division. About the only thing I didn't do at the department was administrative type stuff. And I actually did that the last part of my career due to injury, which led to my retirement. Today I'm doing this for my implicit bias course that I'm taking at Texas A&M University Commerce. And we're answering three questions here. And question number one, if you see me look back, it's because I forgot the question. I'm looking at the question here. Okay, the influence that race relations have had on modern policing, I believe, are great. But when I say great, I mean there's been a great influence in regard to race on modern policing. One example that I can think of that was talked about in class quite frequently, and it because it was true. Um, and this was the stop and frisk policy that was put in the state of New York. Now, as a police officer, I understood that this was a great policy to have. We didn't have to wait for somebody to make a move or to do something before we could go investigate. We could really clearly investigate on suspicion. And I do believe that stop and frisk did stop a lot of crime. The problem became, though, is statistics just didn't lie. It just appeared that minorities were targeted far more for the stop and frisk for the stop and frisk. And even though a lot of cases were made and a lot of things were taken, I believe if I'm correct on the statistics, if you had 10 people, 8 of those 10 that were stopped on stop and frisk were minorities. And so when race became an issue and they began raising the point of, yeah, stop and frisk is great, but all you're stopping is minorities. You're either stopping Hispanics or you're stopping blacks and arresting them on stop and frisk. That was the reason why the policy was abolished. It was based solely, and that's why I said the influence on race, the influence of race in modern policing is great. Every policy that comes out now, no matter what, every policy or strategy that comes out during modern policing, have to look at who does it affect? Does it affect minority races at a different way than it would the white race? Or you have to take that into account in every policy you put out. If you don't, more than likely any policy that's put out will suffer the same fate as stop and frisk. When people start looking at the statistics and they go, look at what's going on here. 80% of your stops, stop and frisk, were of minority race, whether they were Asian or black or Hispanic, it didn't matter. You weren't stopping as many white people as you were stopping minority people. And it causes a myriad of problems. Now, does does bias exist in the police community? Well, for me, the answer to that is I hate to say it, but it's of course. I've learned in this course about implicit bias. I really didn't have a name for it, but that term makes a whole lot of sense to me now. And it's just an unconscious your beliefs, your attitudes just make you do things that you're not aware of. You unconsciously do things, and one example that was given in our course literature was the shooter bias. Why a officer is more likely to shoot a black unarmed person than a white unarmed person, and the implicit bias kicking in is maybe that the black person is perceived to be more violent, more ready to attack, or more likely to have a weapon somewhere as opposed to a white person. So, unfortunately, yeah, that there's a bias there. But I feel like these are things that can be overcome because the thing that we need the police community relation, the thing that we're missing the most is trust. Trust is the number one thing that's broken. The minority community does not trust the police. And speaking as an officer of 23 years, I can say, sadly, there's a lot of police that don't trust the community either. We have to fix that. We got to repair that. I don't have a magic bullet for it or anything like that. And I think that's why people take these courses and take these courses to study. Maybe we can get some ideas, get some things rolling because this is a thing that has to be repaired. We have to fix. So rolling into the final topic here, one thing a thing that I would like to see is a something that I also learned about during my course of study here is procedural justice. Policies that have procedural justice in them. Because when you have to explain what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the possible outcome could be, it takes away from all that. People call it run of the mill or jump or cowboy type stuff where you just jump out and you just, well, I'm just gonna stop this guy just because. But if you know that you have to explain what made you decide to go talk to that gentleman, what was your reasoning for doing so, and what did you expect out? If you have to explain yourself, you take a lot less chances. You only do things that you know that you can articulate for sure. So I've policies that implemented, and before I retired, my department here in Corsicana started implementing some of those. You had to be able to articulate and explain why you made the stop you made or the call you made. And that's leaning toward procedural justice. I think that's what we need more of. Thank you.